Hello everyone, our today's topic is the mesentery and its content, and it also be considered as a small intestine. So we have to know about the part of small intestine. Small intestine has three parts: duodenum, jejunum and ileum. The total length of small intestine is 6.5 meters or 20 feet, and its 2/5 of small intestine is considered it occupies by jejunum and 3/5 by ileum, and its immobile parts is duodenum. And our today's topic is jejunum and ileum. Now, jejunum and ileum are the part of a small intestine, and this part are mobile and by suspended by root of the mesentery. And we have to hold these viscera in anatomical points, but before holding anatomical points, we have to know about the identifying features of jejunum and ileum. The jejunum is thick-walled, and it is considered by two tubes by surgeons because the circular folds are thickly arranged in jejunum, but the circular folds are thin in case of ileum, or absent in case of ileum. So the jejunum is thick-walled, the ileum is thin-walled, and the caliber of the jejunum is greater than ileum, and this is caliber, this is greater than ileum, and this is the caliber of ileum. And another thing is, this is the direction of the superior mesenteric artery, and this is the superior mesenteric artery, and this is also the identifying point of root of the mesentery, and this is the mesentery. And what is mesentery? Now come to the mesentery is two-layer fold of peritoneum which suspend the small intestine from posterior abdominal wall. Now we have to hold this viscera in anatomical points. If the viscera is uncoiled, then you have to coil this in this manner, then firmly hold from left to right, and in right portion it is it is to be ileum, and left it is to be jejunum. Now in anatomical points you have to call this is the viscera of jejunum and ileum suspended by the mesentery. And in anatomical points you can say the direction of the mesentery is from left to right, and the wall of jejunum is thicker than the wall of ileum, and the caliber of jejunum is greater than the caliber of ileum. Now this is all about the anatomical points and parts. Now we have to know about the structure of small intestine and development, nerve supply, blood supply. The figure shows the histological structure of small intestine. Basically it is the structure of jejunum, and in histological structure is jejunum consists of four layers. From outside inward it consists of serosa, then muscularis externa, then submucosa, then mucosa. Now we have to describe the mucosa layer. The mucosa layer is consist of lining epithelium, lamina propria, and then muscularis interna. In all structures of in anatomy, where there is submucosa, there is muscularis interna, because muscularis interna is the demarcating line between lamina propria and submucosa. Now the mucosa is consists of lining epithelium. The lining epithelium of gastrointestinal tract is mainly simple columnar epithelium, and the lamina propria is consists of loose areolar connective tissue which contains some blood vessels, some lymphatics, some glands. The gland of intestine is called crypt of Lieberkühn. Then it also contains some connective tissue cells like lymphatic nodules, and there is shows the lymphatic nodules, and the muscularis interna is a layer of smooth muscle. Now some features are seen in mucosa layer in case of small intestine, and these are circular fold. This is known as plica circularis. The circular fold actually the fold of submucosa and mucosa, and there is also villi. The villi are the folding of only mucosa, but the circular fold are the folding of both submucosa and mucosa. And there is also striated border. Striated border is formed by microvilli of enterocytes. Enterocytes are the tall columnar cells which are the lining form the lining epithelium. And the microvilli of enterocyte are from striated border, and in association question you may be asked where there is another name of striated border. It is named brush border in renal tubule. Now you have to know the mucosa of small intestine is folded due to increase the surface area due to absorption. The main function of a small intestine is absorption. As we know, the digestion is completed mainly completed in the duodenum, and from duodenojejunal flexure to the ileocecal orifice, this portion is the mainly absorptive surface, and main absorption is occur in jejunum. And this absorptive surface is increased by 600-fold by these three features. Number 1, circular fold, then number 2, villi, number 3, striated border. Striated border increases the surface area 20-fold, and the villi increases the surface area 10-fold, and the circular fold increases the surface area 3-folds. So all about the increasing of surface area is 600-fold. Now come to the submucosa. Submucosa layer is consist of dense irregular connective tissue. Some author considered it as loose areolar connective tissue, but according to the Jankoviras histologic basic, the submucosa is consist of dense irregular connective tissue. The submucosa layer of small intestine, in case of jejunum, there is some blood vessels and some connective tissue cells, and there is a nerve plexus which is parasympathetic nerve plexus known as Meissner's plexus or Orbach's plexus. And this is a parasympathetic plexus. The function of this parasympathetic function is increasing the local blood flow. Then the muscularis externa. Muscularis externa layer, two types of smooth muscle, the outer longitudinal muscle and inner circular muscle. Between the outer longitudinal muscle and inner circular muscle, there is also a parasympathetic nerve plexus that is known as myenteric plexus. The function of myenteric plexus is the increase the gastrointestinal motility, that is known as peristalsis. Then the serosa. Serosa layer arises from the peritoneum, so it is lined by mesothelium. So serosa contains some adipose cell, blood vessels, and it is a connective tissue layer. Now come to the differentiating point in histological structure of jejunum and ileum. The villi of jejunum are leaf shaped. This is leaf shaped villi, so this is a structure of jejunum. But in case of ileum, the villi are finger shaped. So you can see the finger shaped villi. This is a section of ileum. And these are the main demarcating point between jejunum and ileum. The another histological structure in this presents in ileum but absent in jejunum. This is lymphatic nodules. Lymphatic nodules in submucosal layer. This is known as Pear's patches. This numerously presents in ileum but absent in jejunum. Jejunum there is only the solitary follicles. Now what is Pear's patches? Pear's patches are collection of lymphatic nodules. What is the number of collection of lymphatic nodules? This is 250 to 260 lymphatic nodules are from each Pear's patches. Now come to the development of small intestine. We know gastrointestinal systems are developed from gut system of embryonic life, and the small intestine is wholly developed from midgut. So we have to know about the specific development of this structure. The lining epithelium and glands of small intestines are developed from endoderm of midgut, and the surrounding musculatures and connective tissues are developed from the splanchnopleurotic layer of lateral plate mesoderm. This is very important for examination, as the blood supply and nerve supply of this viscera, that means small intestine, is according to the developmental background. We know the artery of small intestine is the artery of midgut is superior mesenteric artery. So this small intestine is supplied by the branches of superior mesenteric artery. Mode of the blood supply is described in next. And the nerve supply Also from developmental background, the sympathetic plexus of midgut is superior mesenteric plexus, which is arises from 9th and 10th thoracic spinal cord segment. Now, in case of development, there is associated question: what is physiological herniation? This is very important, as the development of small intestine started in 5th week of intrauterine life. Then in 5th week, the development of the tubular system is increases rapidly, but the cavity of abdominal cavity is so small to occupies all these viscera, and there is also rotation in case of midgut. Midgut rotates 270 degree in two term. One is 90 degree rotation that is occurred in during physiological herniation. The physiological herniation means due to rapid growth of these viscera, this cannot be occupied in abdominal cavity, so this protrude outside of the body by umbilical ring, and by physiological process it protrude into the interior of the abdominal cavity after the week of 8. Then the 180 degree rotation again occurs, so the rotation of small intestine occurs in 273 degree. In axis of the rotation is superior mesenteric artery. Now come to the blood supply and mode of the blood supply. We told about the blood supply. It is supplied by the branches of superior mesenteric artery, and the jejunal and ileal branches of superior mesenteric artery passes through the mesentery, and the mesentery contains this artery, and in mesentery this artery forms some arterial arcades, and from outer arcades of this jejunal and ileal artery, vasa recta arises to supply the wall of the jejunum and ileum. Thus vasa recta supplies the jejunum and ileum in an alternating manner, but in case of duodenum, a pair of vasa recta supplies duodenum. Now we have to know about another thing, that the vasa recta in case of jejunum is longer than the vasa recta in case of ileum, as because the proximal one fourth of the viscera that contains one arterial arcade, and next 1/4 of this viscera contains two arterial arcade, and next 1/4 of this viscera contain three arterial arcade, and the last 1/4 of the mesentery contains a fourth arterial arcade. So the arterial arcade increases into the distance of this viscera. So the vasa recta of jejunum is longer than the vasa recta of ileum. Now come to the nerve supply. As it is a viscera, so it is supplied by autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system has two components. One is sympathetic and another is parasympathetic. The sympathetic supply arises from 9th and 10th thoracic spinal cord segment. And what is the function of sympathetic supply? Sympathetic supply seizes the gastric motility. It seizes the gastrointestinal motility, or it seizes the peristalsis, and the parasympathetic supply arises from both vagus nerve, and each vagus nerve supply this viscera to increase its glandular secretion and increase the peristalsis. And it is the extrinsic supply of this viscera. It has also the intrinsic supply, and that is known as enteric nervous system, which is composed of Orbach's plexus or Meissner's plexus and myenteric plexus. The function of Orbach's plexus and myenteric plexus are described in previous. Now come to the difference. The difference of small intestine and duodenum is very important. The duodenum is the fixed part and devoid of the mesentery, but in jejunum and ileum are not fixed. These are mobile and suspended by the mesentery, and duodenum is supplied by two rows of vasa recta, but the jejunum and ileum is supplied by vasa recta in an alternating manner. In case of duodenum, there is Brunner's gland in submucosal layer, but in case of jejunum and ileum, there is no Brunner's gland in submucosal layer. Now come to the difference between jejunum and ileum. These are very important for examination. Now, external feature, difference in external feature. The caliber of jejunum is greater than ileum, and the wall of jejunum is thicker than ileum. The proximal 2/5 of small intestine is occupied by jejunum, and the distal 3/5 of this viscera is occupied by ileum. Now come to the mode of the blood supply. In blood supply, we discussed about it that the vasa recta of jejunum are longer than the vasa recta of ileum. Fat content of the mesentery. In case of jejunum, the fat are occupies along the root of the mesentery, but in case of ileum, the fats are uniformly distributed. So, in case of jejunum, the mesentery shows some translucent windows due to vasa recta. If we passes a light from opposite side, we can see these translucent windows. But in case of ileum, there is no translucent windows, as the fat layer is very thick and it is uniformly distributed. But in case of jejunum, the fat is distributed along the root of the mesentery. In histological structure, the circular fold are permanent mucus fold, and these folds are larger and thick set in case of jejunum, but these folds are smaller and widely separated in case of ileum. And villi are finger-like in case of ileum, but villi are leaf-like in case of jejunum. And Peyer's patches, there is no Peyer's patches in case of jejunum. Only there is presence of solitary follicles. These are lymphatic follicles. But in case of ileum, there are 20 to 30 Peyer's patches, which are occupied the anti-mesenteric border. The Peyer's patches are numerous in ileum. That is a identifying point between jejunum and ileum histologically. And there is M cells. What is M cells? These M cells are the covering or the microfold cell present numerous membranes surface invagination, which contain many intraepithelial lymphocyte and antigen presenting cells. This is all about the difference between jejunum and ileum. Now come to the mesentery, and this is the mesentery. What is the mesentery? Mesentery is two-layer fold of peritoneum. And what are the content of the mesentery? And the mesentery contains jejunum and ileum, jejunal and ileal vessel, some lymphatics and nerve plexus, that is superior mesenteric plexus, which supplied the jejunum and ileum. And also sometimes some accessory suprarenal tissues and etc. organs. And in nowadays, jejunum is considered as separated organ. In the recent research, it shows some evidence that jejunum that the mesentery is a separated organ. And the part of the mesentery has root of the mesentery. This is root of the mesentery. This is suspend this jejunum and ileum from left side of the second lumbar vertebra to the right sacroiliac joint. And this is root of the mesentery, and root of the mesentery is also considered as the vertebral border of the mesentery. And there is also intestinal border or free border. This intestinal border, in case of in intestinal border, the mesentery separates to enclose the tube of jejunum or ileum. Now, another term is Meckel's diverticulum. Meckel's diverticulum is, we can say this is the number of 2. Here is in the all the numerical numbers. In case of Meckel's diverticulum, it is 2. It is present in 2% of subject, and it is situated in 2 centimeter proximally from the ileocecal orifice, and it also 2 centimeter in long. The Meckel's diverticulum is histologically as same as the small intestine. This is all about this small intestine. If you have any questions or any inquiry about the small intestine or in duodenum or jejunum, you have to comment in our comment section or post in our Facebook group. Thanks everyone.